Beautiful, gentle soul, and lend thine ear. A tale of shadowed love awaits thee. In this woeful chronicle, passion is a torch that burns too fierce, and hearts that dare to love too deep are doomed to bleed. Here walks a maiden, fair as twilight's breath, whose spirit craves the fire of forbidden's embrace. And here a lord, dark of mien and haunted by grief, who binds his fate to hers in threads of crimson sorrow. Love shall rise, yet ruin follow. Weep, if thou canst, for this be a story writ in blood and broken mouths. So ends the tale of lost Lenore, and with her the light of day grows dim. For in their love death did they seal, and in their doom eternal night. In fair Verona's kin, yet nameless town, there dwelt a maiden of moonlit grace called Isolde Vervain. Her beauty held a sorrowed weight, as though heaven, envying earth, had carved her from its tears. Dark as raven's plume, her hair, oft-veiled eyes that shimmered like wet violets at dusk. Yet within those orbs lay not mirth, but hunger for love, for truth, for freedom from her father's iron hand. Lord Vervain, stern patriarch of stone, sought to wed her not by heart's desire, but by coin's clinking sound. Bartered she to a merchant thrice her years, whose coffer swelled yet whose soul lay barren. Isolde, gentle yet resolute, vowed she would ne'er bend her neck to such a yoke. One eve, whilst moon held court above the vale, she wandered the chapel ruins, a place where moss clung to broken arches and silence sang of bygone prayers. There, mid crumbling stone and ivy's clutch, stood Dorian Aurelian, a lord dispossessed. The dawn that followed was a traitor's dawn. Golden beams poured through the Vervain Manor's stern windows, yet they brought no warmth to Isolde's breast. For though her heart now quickened with secret flame, her father's decree still hung over her like a headsman's axe. The merchant suitor, one Master Calder, drew near to claim her hand, and every hour closed the noose tighter about her throat. Yet in the silent hours, when night veiled the stars, she fled once more to the chapel ruins. There awaited Dorian, shadowed by grief, but brightened by her approach. In his presence, chains seemed to crack, and she, though still a captive to her fate, dreamed of freedom with every stolen glance. He knelt before her not with lordly pride, but with humility born of ruin. "Lady Isolde," spake he, his voice a storm softened by sorrow, "though I am but ashes of what I once was, thy gaze maketh me believe that embers yet may burn anew." The moon, pale witness to their secret vows, had scarce faded when the tempest broke. Lord Vervain, embittered by Garrick's poisonous tongue, summoned Isolde with fury blazing in his eye. "You have stained this house with folly," he thundered. "Whisper not, for I know your treachery. A vagrant lord has claimed your heart. Speak, do you deny it?" Isolde, trembling yet unbowed, raised her chin. "I deny it. My heart is mine, and it hath found its keeper in Lord Dorian. Though thou bind my hand, thou canst not chain my soul." At her defiance, Vervain's face grew as iron. "Then know this, thou shalt wed Calder before the fortnight's end. Resist, and I shall see thy lover ground beneath my heel. His name shall be a curse upon the wind, his body food for crows." Isolde's heart shattered, but she veiled her tears lest he taste her weakness. In silence she fled, bearing dread to the ruins where Dorian awaited. The morrow dawned with deceitful grace. Sunlight draped the fields in golden cloth, and birds sang as though the world knew naught of sorrow. Yet beneath such gentle mask, death sharpened its blade. Lord Vervain, grim in resolve, gathered men loyal to his purse. They were armed not for justice, but for blood. Garrick, venomous with glee, served as their hound, leading them toward the chapel where love dared bloom. Isolde, unknowing of doom's swift march, dressed herself in plain garb to cloak her flight. A small bundle she clasped, token of new life, a ribbon, a locket, and a book of verses Dorian once spake to her beneath the ruin's arch. Each trinket whispered of hope, though hope itself tottered on trembling feet. As night descended, She stole from her chamber, each step a prayer against discovery. Through garden's shadow and gate unguarded she passed, her breath quick with terror, until the chapel's broken silhouette rose before her like a sentinel. There waited Dorian, cloaked in midnight hues. When he spied her, his face, stern with care, softened to light. He took her hands and kissed them with reverence. At last, my star. One more hour and the sea shall cradle us far from tyranny's grasp. The ruined stones drank crimson as though they had long thirsted for such offering. Dorian, grieved yet unyielding, pressed one hand to his wound while the other still clutched his dagger. His breath came ragged, yet his eyes burned with the same fire that first had drawn Isolde unto him. Stand back, carrion, he spat at Varane's men. Though my lifeblood spill, I shall not bow to tyrants. Isolde knelt beside him, her hands trembling as they sought to staunch the wound. Her tears fell like rain upon his breast. Hold, my love. Hold fast, for I cannot breathe this world without thee. Dorian's lips curled in a ghost of smile. Fear not, my star, my soul is thine, whether in flesh or beyond. The night after Dorian's fall, Isolde's chamber was blacker than ink. No candle burned. She sat by the window, her hair unbound, her hands clutching the bloody dagger like a relic. Her tears, once ceaseless, now hardened into silence. For grief had been the seed, but vengeance was the bloom. She crept back to the chapel ruins. There, before the altar of broken stone, she knelt and vowed to avenge him. Let no false dawn deceive me, no soft whisper sway me. My father's pride shall break, and the serpent's tongue shall choke him. From that night forth, she played her part with cunning. She bowed to Calder, spoke sweet to Varane, yet in secret she sought allies among the manor's servants. On the night of her betrothal, she stole away. The feast was in full swing when Varane called for silence. He raised his goblet. To my daughter Isolde, he proclaimed, whose hand this night is bound to noble Calder. But Isolde's gaze was steady as winter. Lords and ladies, hear me, she cried. Before vows are spoken, my heart must speak its truth. What a tale of woe and vengeance this was. In the midst of the hall, the maiden with dagger in hand proclaimed her oath. And then she rushed upon him, piercing the knight's throat. And as he fell, she stood above him, crying, Dorian, I come. What a tragic end to the feast this was. As the hall stood still, only the drip of blood upon the stones broke the silence. And then she turned to Varane and said, Father monster, thou hast slain my love. And with that, she plunged her dagger into his chest. He staggered back, clutching the wound. Daughter, he gasped, thou hast undone us both. And with that, he fell to his knees and expired. Oh, how the mighty had fallen. And Isolde stood above them, the victors of her own personal battle. But the question is, who will she claim next? For the hall of mirth and merriment had become a tomb of sorrow and despair. In the end, Isolde fell, last of her house, her tale a dirge of love and vengeance. Dawn broke, pale and hollow, upon Varane's manor. Its light crept through shattered windows, glancing off goblets overturned, banners torn, and the still forms of those who feasted last night. Silence dwelt heavy, as if the very stones mourned. Upon the hall's cold floor lay Varane, lord of pride, struck down by the hand of his own blood. Beside him, Isolde, his daughter, her gown steeped in crimson, her dagger yet clasped within her lifeless grasp. Her face, though pallid, bore strange calm, as though in death she had found the peace denied her in life. Some whispered that justice had been served, others that doom had cursed their house. Yet all agreed no joy would ever haunt those halls again. Calder, trembling with rage and fear, proclaimed her mad. She slew her father, she slew Carrick. She is traitor, witch, murderess. But his words rang hollow, for none had heart to join his cry. In days that followed, word of the tragedy spread as fire through a dry field. Songs were sung of Isolde Varenne, the maiden who defied her father's pride, who loved a fallen lord, and who chose death above chains. Some called her Curse, others Saint of Sorrow. Her name, though stained in blood, grew bright in memory.